I always believed the most terrifying moment in a hospital would be hearing a doctor say, "We did everything we could." I was wrong. The most terrifying moment is when someone you love, someone you trusted your whole life, looks at you with fading eyes and decides this is the moment to tell you the truth. The whole truth. The truth they kept hidden for years. My name is Hannah Cole. I'm 28 years old. And this is the story of the confession my stepdad made on his deathbed, one that shattered every memory I thought I understood. If you enjoy real-life stories like mine, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what happens next. My stepdad, Mark Taylor, entered my life when I was 10 years old. Before him, it was just me and my mom, Claire, living in a small apartment with mismatched plates and too many bills taped to the fridge. My biological father, Eric, had already disappeared to another state with a new wife and a new family, leaving behind birthdays he missed and promises that turned into dust. When my mom met Mark, he felt like the opposite of everything my father had been: steady, soft-spoken, reliable, the kind of man who built furniture instead of excuses. For 18 years, when I said, "Dad," I meant him. 2 months ago, a blood clot after a routine heart procedure changed everything. One moment he was texting me pictures of hospital pudding, joking about starting a food review blog. The next he was in the ICU, pale and trembling under harsh white lights. On the fourth night, something shifted. I felt it the moment I walked into his room. The beeping machine sounded too loud. My mom sat hunched in a plastic chair, her fingers wrapped tight around a styrofoam cup. Her face looked older, lines carved deep by worry, sleeplessness, and love. Mark's eyes fluttered open as I approached. They were cloudy but searching for something. Or someone.
"Hannah," he rasped. My mom leaned forward instantly.
"I'm right here," she whispered. "We're both here," but Mark shook his head, his gaze fixed only on me. "No," he whispered.
"Her! Alone!" My heart thudded painfully. My mom blinked, confused. "Mark."
"You don't need to talk. Just rest, okay?" He gathered what strength he had left. "Please, Claire, just a minute. I need to speak with Hannah alone." The word "need" struck me hard. My mom hesitated. I could see the fear behind her eyes, fear of losing him, fear of being excluded from these final moments, but she stood slowly. Her hand brushed my shoulder as she passed. "I'll be right outside," she murmured. The door clicked shut. The room felt instantly smaller. I moved closer to the bed. "Dad," I whispered, "you're scaring us."
He struggled to swallow. "No time," he said.
"Listen to me, don't interrupt." A cold ripple slid down my spine. "Okay," I breathed. "I'm listening." His breathing hitched, but he forced out the words. "There are things I should have told you years ago. Things about your father, about your mother. About me," I frowned. "Mom already told me everything about the divorce." "She told you what she believed," he said. "But not what really happened." A chill prickled up my arms. He took another breath, shallow and shaky. "I knew your father before your mother ever met him." The words hit like a bucket of ice water. "What?" "We were in college together," he whispered. "Friends. Business partners for a short time. I knew him better than anyone." My stomach tightened. "Why didn't you ever tell me that?" His eyes flicked toward the closed door, then back to me. "Because to tell you that, I'd have to tell you everything else," he coughed. A rough, painful sound that made the monitor beep. "Hannah," he said, gripping the sheet weakly, "your father was involved with the wrong people. He owed money. A lot of it, and he made a deal he couldn't keep." "What kind of deal?" I whispered. "The kind that ruins lives," he said. "He wasn't just reckless, he was dangerous. And when he couldn't pay what he owed, he offered something else instead." My throat tightened. "Offered what?" His eyes held mine with a fierce, desperate clarity I had never seen in him before. "You," he whispered. "He offered you." My knees almost gave out. "Dad, that doesn't make sense. I was a baby."
He nodded weakly. "Exactly."
That's why he thought he could get away with it. They wanted leverage. Something to control him with. He promised them access to you, your future, your identity, your records, anything they could use. And when he didn't follow through, they came after him. My pulse pounded in my ears. "Why didn't Mom know?" "She knew pieces," he said. "She knew he ran. She didn't know why, but I did, because I was the one who helped her hide." I was the one who erased the trail. I was the one who made sure they never found you. He swallowed hard. And I've been hiding the truth ever since. Why tell me now? I whispered, voice shaking. His next words nearly stopped my heart. Because they found him last week, he said. And now, they're looking for you. For a long moment, I couldn't breathe. The machines around us kept their steady rhythm, indifferent to the way my world had just cracked straight down the middle. My stepdad's words echoed in my head like a warning spoken underwater. They're looking for you. I forced myself to swallow. Dad, what do you mean they found him last week? Found who? My father? Mark's eyes fluttered, then steadied. Yes, Eric. He resurfaced in Nevada. He'd been hiding for years, moving from place to place, but the debt never disappeared. These weren't people who forget. They don't forgive. When they located him, he ran again. Same pattern, same fear. My chest tightened. But what does that have to do with me? They can't possibly still want. They don't want you, he said, voice barely above a whisper. They want what was promised. Your records. Your identity. Anything tied to you that can be used. Your father gave them your name before you were even born. That doesn't go away. A tremor moved through his hand. I reached for it. Why didn't you ever tell me this? His eyelids drooped, but he forced them open. Because your mother didn't know the danger she married into. She believed he just left. I wanted to keep it that way. I thought if I buried the truth deep enough, it would die there. But it didn't. I looked at the door, picturing my mom sitting outside, unaware her entire life was built on lies she never agreed to. Why tell me now? I asked. Because your father's disappearance stirred everything back up, and because someone has been asking questions about you. Cold washed through me. Who? A man came to the house 2 weeks ago, he whispered. Said he was from a financial firm. Needed verification of your information, but something felt wrong. Too many questions, too much interest. What did you tell him?
Nothing, Mark said. I told him to contact you directly.
He didn't like that. A shiver ran through me. Mark's breath hitched. I should have told you sooner. I wanted to protect you from a truth that felt too big for a child, then too heavy for a teenager. But now you need to know everything. His hand tightened weakly around mine. There's something else? Something more important than all of it. Something I've been carrying for 28 years. I leaned closer. What is it? His voice cracked as he whispered, Hannah, I don't think you understand who you really are. His words hung between us, heavy enough to bend the air. I felt myself leaning forward without realizing it. Every part of me braced for something I couldn't name. What do you mean? I whispered, Who am I supposed to be? Mark blinked slowly, as if gathering strength from somewhere far away. Your father didn't just owe money, he said. He owed information, access, and when he couldn't pay, he offered. Something he didn't fully understand. Something he had no right to offer. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. Offered what? You, he said again, but this time his voice was steadier. Because you're not just his daughter. You're something far more valuable to them. My blood turned to ice. Dad, please. Stop talking in riddles. Just tell me.
He coughed, wincing as pain rippled through him.
When I met your mother, she didn't know she was pregnant. Not yet, Eric knew, though. He used that knowledge to negotiate with people who believed he had access to something rare, something genetic. Something they wanted. I stared at him. Genetic? Are you saying I have some kind of medical condition? No, he breathed. Not a condition. A lineage. The room seemed to tilt slightly. What lineage? His fingers twitched toward the drawer beside his bed. There's a file. My file. I kept everything in case this day came. Notes, letters, copies of things your father signed. Things your mother never saw. I hoped I'd never need to show you. I reached for the drawer, but his voice stopped me mid-motion. Wait, he whispered. Before you open it. I need to say this. Everything I did, raising you, protecting you, loving you, it wasn't out of guilt. It was because you became my daughter the moment I met you. Nothing in that file changes that. His words cracked something in me. I know, I whispered. But you still haven't told me what any of this has to do with me. A shadow of regret crossed his face. Because your biological father wasn't just running from debt. He was running from what he owed them. You. And when he disappeared again last week, they shifted their focus. My breath caught. To me? He nodded once, barely visible. And they won't stop this time. Not unless you understand exactly why they want you. I opened the drawer with trembling hands. Inside was a thick envelope with my name written in his handwriting. Everything is in there, he said. But, Hannah? Yes, whatever you find. Don't hate your mother. She never knew. His monitor beeped faster as he whispered the final words. You deserve the truth. But the truth may not deserve you. For several seconds I couldn't move. My fingers hovered above the envelope, but the rest of my body felt frozen, as if opening it would split my life cleanly into before and after. Mark watched me with the dimming focus of a man forcing himself to stay conscious just a little longer. You have to look, he whispered. Everything starts there. I slid the envelope into my lap. The paper felt heavier than it should, like it carried the weight of an entire lifetime of secrets. My hands trembled as I opened it, revealing a stack of documents, birth records, handwritten notes, and letters with my father's signatures scrawled across the bottom in the same impatient slant I hadn't seen since childhood. What am I supposed to be seeing? I asked, flipping through pages that made no sense. Page 6, Mark murmured. I found it a faded hospital form with boxes highlighted in yellow. My name wasn't on it yet. It was from months before I was born. But my mother's name was there. So was my father's, and next to prenatal screening authorization, someone had written a note. A note that made my heart lurch. Approved for secondary genetic panel. Payment pending. I looked up sharply. What is this? Why would they run a genetic panel on me before I was even born? Because they believed your mother carried something valuable, Mark said. Something your father promised he could deliver. He didn't understand what he was offering, but he saw money.
He always saw money.
I shook my head. My mom never mentioned anything like this. She said her pregnancy was normal. She didn't know, he said. The tests were arranged through your father.
He hid the results. Hid everything. My throat tightened. Tests for what?
Mark swallowed hard, fighting for breath. Your mother came from a family with rare markers, nothing dangerous. But to the wrong people, it meant opportunity, influence, control. I stared at him, stunned. Are you saying someone wanted to use me for some kind of research? His gaze softened with sorrow. Not research, bargaining. Your father used the idea of your genetics to negotiate. He couldn't deliver you, so he vanished. For years they believed he'd cut ties, but when he resurfaced last week, they remembered exactly what he owed. My pulse hammered in my ears. And now they think I'm the only thing he can give them. Mark's eyelids fluttered. Yes, and they won't stop again. Not this time. I forced myself to breathe, but every inhale felt thin, brittle. Why didn't you tell the police? I whispered. Why didn't you warn someone? Anyone? Mark's eyes flickered with regret. Because I didn't know they were looking again. Not until it was too late. Not until the man came to the house. The one asking about me? I asked. He nodded weakly. He said he needed confirmation of your identity for a financial matter, but he knew too much. He asked about your birthplace, your social security number, your school records. Things no legitimate firm would ask without written consent. A chill crawled up my spine. What did you do? I stalled, he said. I told him you handled everything yourself. He didn't like that answer. He left, but...
He wasn't done. A shadow of fear crossed his face, fear I had never seen in him before.
3 days later, he continued, I found a business card taped to our front door. No name, no company, just a number. That's when I realized it had started again. My stomach twisted. Why didn't you call me? I was going to, he said softly, but the next morning I collapsed. By the time they told me about the clot, I knew I wouldn't have much time left. And I couldn't leave this world without telling you the truth. His words sliced through me. Dad, this is too much. I don't know what to do with any of it. You don't have to decide now, he whispered. Just understand that everything in that envelope leads somewhere. Answers, proof, connections. The truth your father tried to bury. I looked down at the pages in my lap, signatures, test results, letters, all forming a history I never agreed to. What happens when Mom finds out? I murmured. Pain flickered in his eyes. She loved your father once. She never understood why he changed, why he left. This truth will shatter her. That's why you have to be careful. She might not believe you at first. I swallowed hard. Do you want me to tell her? Yes, he said, but not yet. Not until you understand how deep this goes. Not until you're safe. His breathing grew more uneven, each inhale a struggle. I reached for his hand. Dad, please, stay with me, don't go yet. I still have questions. He looked at me with a softness that made my chest ache. Hannah, he whispered, the answers are already in your hands. Then his hand slipped from mine. For a moment I couldn't hear anything, not the monitor alarms, not the footsteps in the hallway, not even my own breathing. I just stared at Mark's still hand resting against the blanket. Moments ago it had been warm and trembling beneath mine. Now it felt different, final. The door opened and my mom rushed in, her face pale with worry. Hannah, what happened? I heard the machines. She stopped when she saw him. No, she whispered, voice cracking. Mark, please no. She collapsed onto the side of the bed, grasping his arm as if she could anchor him to this world. Tears streamed down her face, harsh and uncontrolled. I wanted to comfort her, but my own body felt emptied out, like grief had carved a hole straight through me. I clutched the envelope in my lap. It suddenly felt like a living thing, hot, heavy, pulsing with secrets. The nurses came rushing in, speaking gently, then firmly, guiding my mom away. I stood there, numb, clutching that envelope like it was the last piece of him I had left. The next hours blurred signing papers, calling relatives, guiding my mom through shock. But through all of it, the envelope stayed in my bag, its edges pressing into my side like a reminder. You can't run from this. That night, when we finally returned home, Mom went straight to her room. I heard her crying through the door, deep and guttural. I wanted to tell her everything. I wanted to warn her. But Mark's final request echoed in my mind. Not yet. Not until you're safe. So I let her grieve in peace. I went to my own room, locked the door, and sat on the floor with the envelope spread out in front of me. I reread every document, every signature, every note. And the more I read, the more something unsettling formed, a pattern I didn't understand but couldn't ignore. My father hadn't just been running from debt. He had been running from the consequences of a deal involving me before I was ever born. The prenatal tests, the financial notes, the letters referencing the promised asset. My hands shook as I reached for the last item, a small sealed envelope inside the larger one. Mark had labeled it in trembling ink. Open only when you're ready. I hesitated, heart pounding. Was I ready? Because whatever was inside had the power to change everything again. I sat there staring at the smaller envelope, feeling like Mark's voice was still in the room urging me to move forward, to understand, to finally see what had been hidden for nearly 3 decades. My fingers hovered over the seal. One tear slipped down my cheek before I even realized I was crying. I took a breath and opened it. Inside was a single folded sheet of paper and an old photograph. The photo showed my mom much younger, glowing, clearly pregnant, and standing next to her was my biological father, Eric. But what froze me wasn't them. It was the third man. He stood slightly behind Eric, smiling with a confidence that felt cold and calculated. I didn't recognize him, but something about the sharpness in his eyes made my stomach twist. I turned to the letter. Hannah, if you're reading this, it means I couldn't tell you everything myself. This man in the photo is the real danger. His name is Adrian Locke. He was the one your father made the deal with. He is the one who wanted access to you. And he is the one who has been looking for you again. My hands tightened around the page. Your father promised Adrian something he couldn't deliver. When he ran, Adrian didn't give up, he simply waited. You are not in danger because of who you are. You are in danger because of who Adrian believes you could be. I swallowed hard, scanning every word. You may never know exactly what he wanted, but you need to understand this. Eric wasn't the only one he watched. I saw him twice, years after the divorce, once near your school, once near our house. I confronted him. He told me he would collect, one day. That's why I hid everything. That's why I raised you like you were my own. I won't be here to protect you now, so please, Hannah, trust no one until you know their intentions. Stay alert. And whatever happens, stay alive. Mark, my breath hitched. Alive? Why would he write that? Unless... A floorboard creaked outside my bedroom door. I froze. Mom was still crying in her room. She wouldn't be walking around. Someone else was in the hallway. Slow, deliberate steps moved closer. The envelope slipped from my hands. Someone stopped right outside my door. And then a soft knock. I didn't answer the door. I sat perfectly still on the floor, heart pounding so loudly I was sure whoever stood outside could hear it. The knock came again, softer this time, almost polite. My mind raced through possibilities, none of them good. Hannah? A voice called quietly. It was my mother? Relief flooded me so fast my vision blurred. I scrambled to my feet and opened the door. She stood there in her robe, eyes red and swollen, her face etched with fresh grief. I heard something fall, she said. Are you okay? I nodded too quickly. Yeah, I just dropped something. She glanced past me into the room, her gaze landing on the scattered papers on the floor. Her eyes narrowed slightly. What's all this? My chest tightened. This was the moment Mark warned me about. Too soon. Not safe. It's nothing, I said, stepping in front of the documents. Just old stuff. She studied my face for a long second, then sighed. I don't have the energy to pry tonight, she whispered. I don't want to be alone. I followed her to the living room. We sat on opposite ends of the couch, the space between us heavy with unspoken truths. She stared at the dark television screen, her reflection warped and small. He loved you so much, she said quietly. You know that, right? I know, I replied. My throat burned. I keep thinking I should have seen something, she continued. Some sign. Some warning that all of this was coming. I swallowed hard. Mom, did Dad ever talk about my biological father? About why he really left? Her hands tightened in her lap.
He said Eric was selfish, that he panicked.
That he couldn't handle responsibility. She shook her head. I believed that was all there was. What if there was more? I asked carefully. She turned to me, eyes searching. Why would you ask that? I hesitated, then I chose my words with care. Because Mark said things before he passed. Things that didn't sound like panic. They sounded like fear. Her face drained of color. Fear of what? I didn't answer. She stood abruptly. I need some air, she said. This house feels too quiet. When she went outside, I locked my bedroom door and shoved the papers back into the envelope. My hands shook as I grabbed my laptop and searched the name from the letter. Adrian Locke. Dozens of results appeared. Business entities. Shell companies. Legal disputes. Then one headline made my blood run cold. Adrian Locke questioned in identity fraud investigation, no charges filed. A notification popped up before I could click it. Unknown number. We need to talk. I believe Mark left you something. Call me. I stared at the screen. They knew. I didn't reply to the message. I turned my phone off, slid it beneath a stack of books, and sat on the edge of my bed listening to the quiet. The house felt different now, like it was holding its breath. Someone believed Mark had left something behind, and that meant the truth was no longer buried. It was moving. The next morning, I met with an attorney Mark had listed in his notes. Her office was small, quiet, and reassuringly ordinary. I laid everything out, the documents, the letter, the message from the unknown number. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she leaned back and said calmly, You did the right thing by not responding. Whatever your stepfather uncovered, it has value. And people don't go looking for value unless they intend to use it. So what do I do? I asked. You protect yourself, she said. Legally, quietly, and you stop letting other people decide what you deserve to know. That afternoon, I told my mother everything. She cried the way people do when truth rewrites their past, not loudly. Not dramatically. Just deep, shaking sobs that carried years of confusion and misplaced guilt. When she finally looked at me, her voice was steady. He tried to protect you, she said. Both of them did, in their own ways. I know, I replied. But now it's my turn. We filed the paperwork Mark had prepared. Alerts were placed on my identity. Accounts were locked down. A trail that once led directly to me quietly disappeared. Whatever Adrian Locke believed he was owed, it wouldn't be collected from my life. The message never came again. Months passed, then a year. The fear softened into something manageable. I moved into my own place, far from familiar routines. I built a life defined by choice instead of secrecy. Mark's confession didn't just shake my world. It freed it. I learned that protection without truth can still cause harm. That silence, even when well-intended, creates shadows where fear grows. And that family isn't defined by who claims you, but by who stands between you and danger when it matters most. I still miss him, but I carry his love, not his secrets. Sometimes the truth arrives too late to save what we had, but it arrives just in time to save who we become. And that finally is enough.